Aloha. I'm Representative Barbara Marumoto, and today we're going to talk to you about a small business in Hawaii, a rather old small business that could be found in Waipahu. It's Highway Inn, and I have one of the owners here with me today. Her name is Monica Toguchi. So welcome, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, we're interested in knowing about Highway Inn and how it started. And so I understand you have a video that we could look at.
We do. We can start learning about Highway Inn's history from the video, which is a few minutes long.
Well, I think that our people who are watching on TV would be very interested in learning how a small business got started. And there it is on the screen already. And what are they showing? Lau Lau.
You know, Highway Inn started in 1947 by my grandfather, and I am now a third generation owned. There are a lot of family businesses, I think, here in Hawaii, and it's a challenge to get it from first generation to second, and then third, and subsequently, you know, generations after that. So we've been around for 65 years. We started in Waipahu. We're still in Waipahu when sugarcane and pineapple were the industries of our state, and the community in Waipahu has changed over time.
I noticed there's one smokestack there. Is that where the mill was?
Correct, yeah. There's, on this cup here, we have the old Waipahu, Oahu sugar plantation, which shows 2 smokestacks, and today there's only 1. But the Ewa Plain obviously was a great place to grow that type of crop, and so a lot of our original customers were people that worked at Oahu Sugar Mill, a lot of people that worked in the plantation, and so we really feel like that's where our roots are, is in that plantation era of the 1940s.
What year was it founded?
47.
47.
So before statehood.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And your grandfather started it.
And my grandfather started it, and it's been a very interesting story because my grandfather only had a 2nd grade education.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. So it goes to show that, you know, the American dream, and if you work hard and you work diligently, that things are possible.
What happened during World War II?
So my grandfather learned how to cook Hawaiian foods from working in a restaurant that served Hawaiian food, and that's where he also met my grandmother. When the war came in 41, I believe, he was picked up, and we have
because he was Japanese.
Because he was Okinawan.
Okay.
And for a period of time, he was orphaned, and so he went back to Okinawa to be raised. And when he came back at 14 years old, he found a job as a dishwasher, and he worked very hard and worked his way up to be a cook's apprentice, and that's where he learned how to cook Hawaiian food. When the war came, the American government asked people to describe their occupation, whether you're a barber or a cook. In my grandfather's case, because his whole adult life was really cooking, he listed cook. And so he was interned in Tule Lake, California, where he was placed in the mess hall with other Japanese American cooks. And that's why in our menu, we do have American menu like hamburger steaks and sirloin cutlets. It was really from that time period of the war. And so we have a inside joke that the American government sponsored our grandfather's culinary training.
I see.
So, yeah.
So it was after the war that he started Highway Inn.
Correct. So they went off first to Arkansas, where he was interned, and you know, during the war, a lot of Japanese Americans took a lot of things away from the Japanese Americans. But I think we're ready to go on to look at how things got started.
Yes,
and the video.
Your video, we'd like to see it.
Yep.
What is it called?
Highway Inn, it was produced by Robert Pennybacker, but it takes you through the 3 generations, and we'll start with the 2nd chapter, which is really about how my grandfather started the company in 1947.
Oh, that'll be exciting. Humble Beginnings. I see the title.
For food. So we were so lucky, you know, being young, we really want to eat, right? So he used to bring home food for us, and we would share it with all the neighbors, and that was really something.
I do think it's really remarkable, starting off with nothing and not just nothing, but being stripped of everything that, you know, you have, your self-dignity, you know, any kind of material possessions. All of that was stripped away with the war.
Well, in 1946, you know, when we got back in February, he tried different things. He tried to raise pigs, but you know, everybody laughed at him because his pigs got skinnier instead of fatter. You know, so he said, I don't think I'm cut out to be a pig farmer.
So he was employed by Rudy's Grill in Honolulu at that time.
Yeah, that's when we moved again.
Then
huh?
that's when he decided he needed to go on his own. But you know, 5 siblings, so that's when he decided to open the restaurant, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it was 1947. Yeah.
He needed financial backing, I guess, you know, at least capital to start the business. So it was at this point that my mom's parents, you know, helped him, and my grandparents went out to all of the family friends and acquaintances to ask to borrow money. So with that, he, you know, put a down payment on a place on Farrington Highway, the regional highway in. There's a Flying A service station, Nakamoto's, and then the restaurant was here.
It was a big deal, you know, because all our classmates, I mean, we could brag that, oh, we're going to have a restaurant, you know, but I think I bragged about it.
My mother was a go-getter, so she was happy-go-lucky too, you know, friendly. Yeah. But she was a good waitress, you know, I must say. Well, my dad was a good cook.
When the waitress goes to the cash register, we had the old-fashioned cash register, that you have to, you know, manual type. So every time they press in the keys, then he would hear ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Then he would call the waitress. I think you forgot some item, because he was counting how many items he made, and when she pressed the register, you know, if she was short, then he would know right away.
Oh,
My mom was so generous. When we opened the restaurant, she was so generous. These old people, they would come and eat, and they don't have money. And we just opened the restaurant, but my mom was so generous, she would say, never mind, you pay next time. You come and you pay next time.
That was a nice picture of old Waipahu town.
It was, and it's really neat to watch the video. I can watch the video over and over again, because there's some values like, oh, you pay next time. It's very rare to find these days where a business will say, oh, that's okay, you pay next time.
Okay, so the 2 aunties are your aunties, and Bobby is your father.
Correct.
And Regina is your sister.
Regina is my sister, and she
Regina.
lives in Beijing right now.
Oh, she's in Beijing.
She's
I
in
thought she was
Beijing.
running the business with you.
Yeah, this video was made a couple years ago to celebrate our 60th anniversary.
And what is she doing in Beijing?
She's working for Sodexo.
Okay, that's really interesting.
She speaks Mandarin and Japanese and.
Okay, so this program is really about a small business and how it started up and its history, and also about some of the trials and tribulations of a small business and flourishing in Hawaii. But, you know, just to let people know what you do, I mean, you know, what kind of food you serve, let's describe that. I mean, we have here some menus that are kind of descriptive, and a takeout menu. And a catering menu. So obviously you, besides food in the restaurant, you have takeout, you do catering. And this is really interesting. Tell me about this brochure.
This one, we were on the Food Network in 2010, and I think, I can't recall what agency, worked very hard to get the Food Network to come, and we were fortunately selected to be aired. A real quick story is that when we aired on the Food Network, April 5th, that was my grandfather's birthday. And he had passed away in 1994, so it was very serendipitous for us to have that airing. But what had happened was, Waipahu is not a town like Kailua or, you know, or Haleiwa, where visitors come to. It's changed a lot over time, but after the airing of the Food Network, we would see a lot of more tourists coming into our restaurants. I mean, you would never ever see usually a tourist. I mean, it was really focused on the local people, and And also too with, Ihilani and Aulani being developed on the west side. So this Malihini guide to Hawaiian food was really to help them get through a Hawaiian menu, and it basically comes with different Hawaiian foods and how to pronounce it properly, and in the back it has Hawaiian words.
And lau lau is apparently your specialty.
Lau lau, we have a few specialties, lau lau definitely being one of them, our pipi kaula, Hawaiian beef stew, a lot of our, I'm biased, so.
But
I
so
like to
you
cook.
have a lot of tourists coming, and probably a lot of people from the neighborhood too.
We do have tourists, but fortunately, our motto is we cook for locals first and visitors second.
And
Yeah.
so do you have any notables that will come to your restaurant?
We have a lot of people in the music industry,
Oh,
Makahasans, and I'm just going blank right now, but we definitely have, of course, Rebel Soldiers, who is from our Waipahu community. They won Reggae Album of the Year for Nahoku Hanohano Awards
oh, terrific.
one year.
I know people who will drive across the island too.
Yeah, and former Governor Waihe'e comes and does that. Cyril Pahinui, Melvin Lead, a lot of famous people that we see around or we listen to their music. So we've been very fortunate, very strong
And it's
support.
kind of like a family. You have how many employees there?
We have our company. It has 35 employees, has grown to be 35 employees, and my father and my uncle still work with me part-time. My uncle still full-time, my father part-time, and then now I have a sister who's sort of helps me get through the day, keeping me on task with different things.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
And how long have your employees been with you?
We are very fortunate. I think Highway Inn is really kind of about family, and it's about bringing people together, family and friends, over Hawaiian food, because we come from this place, Hawaii, and our host culture. And so we feel that what we do is very, very special, but more importantly, beyond our customers, our employees that make it happen every single day. I think it would be remiss to not give them credit, because obviously I can't cook and take orders and do all of that myself. So one of our employees, Juanita, has been with us for 44 years. She came as an immigrant from the Philippines when she was 21 and is still with us, and she's in her 60s now. A lot of our staff has been with us for a good 15, 25 years. And I think that kind of ohana in our business allows us to, succeed and do what we do every single day.
Well, as a legislator, I think of when you say employees, I'm thinking in terms of costs of employees. And recently we dealt with a high cost of unemployment insurance. So is this a factor in your hiring?
I think as small business people, it's really important, because a lot of times we don't come to creating a small business because we think of HR and we think of public policy and we think of how public policy is going to affect business and regulations that come our way. As small business people, we really come to the table with a great idea that we think is going to work, that we believe and we're passionate about. And so a lot of times we're just sort of kind of focused with that product or service delivery. Unemployment, a lot of business people were so caught up with the day-to-day operations that it's very, very difficult for us to keep on top of what is coming out of the legislature year after year after year.
Well, let me go back a bit just to explain to some people. Unemployment insurance is something that the employer is required to
It is a tax.
fund.
Right.
It's like a tax,
Right.
and it costs so much per
Right.
employee per year.
Right.
And if the employee is let go, then they could collect unemployment compensation.
Correct.
We call it unemployment comp.
Correct.
So is this a big cost?
It is. So just to give you an example, in 2009, our unemployment tax rate, we paid to the state $400. In 2010, it was $4,000, and then in 2011, it was over $15,000. So definitely the decision that comes out of the legislature, and even at that, they worked very hard to ease that burden to businesses. And the reason why we had to go from, I think, a Schedule A to an F was really because of the economic crisis that we faced in 2009 and so many people being unemployed. So what maybe people...
You would have to pay a lot more from going from A to F.
Yeah. The funds were being depleted to the point where I think the state went through maybe temporarily having to borrow from the federal government to pay unemployment.
We had $500 million, like $500 million plus in this fund, which can be used, which employers pay into.
Right.
And then when they collect unemployment, it drains it. We could use this money only to pay unemployment compensation.
Right.
And that went down quite a bit.
Right.
And I better not say how much it went down to, but
Yeah.
it was to the point where we borrowed money from the federal government.
Right.
And we were required to repay it, and I think
With interest.
I hope they forgave the interest, but
Right.
so it did go back up this year. But if it started at $400 in 2009, what did it go up to?
15 in 2011.
$15,000.
So that's extra, so if you want to put it into perspective, you $15,000 minus 400, 14,600, and I sell my lao lao, for what, $4.95 or so, do the math, right? And I always tell people, how many lao laos do I have to sell and even at that, there's costs for the tea leaf, for the luau leaf. That's not a pure profit, and I think that's sometimes very difficult for small businesses is that, in difficult economic times, and people are holding on to their money and they're not spending it, and then you have taxation occur at the same time, and then you have costs of goods like, a lot of people, I'm sure they're aware, is that, food prices are very much correlated with oil prices, and so we've seen that increase. As oil has gone up, so has food costs, and everything being shipped into Hawaii makes it even more expensive.
And delivered to your place.
Right, and so for businesses, you're always trying to play that revenue cost game, because if your cost goes up more than your revenues, well, you'll be in the negative. So, it's really how profitable you are is how far apart you can make these two, from revenue to cost. But at the same time, obviously, you want to give your customers value. You don't want to be, gouging your prices, or they won't come. If they don't feel like they're getting value and they don't feel like they're having good food, then you affect the revenue side. So there's always that fine balance that businesses have to pay, has to play.
Shipping prices have gone up, but on the other hand, the legislature also took away a tax credit on longshore activities. So that increased costs even more to businesses. So it just goes down the food chain, literally.
It does, and it eventually hits the consumer, because we have to cover our costs, our vendors have to cover their costs, right? So they increase their costs, then we have to see, okay, how much of this can we absorb? How much cost increase as a business can we absorb so we don't have to pass it to the consumer? And we're always trying to do that with our menu prices, is trying to absorb as much as possible, because we know that people, being born and raised here, and being of my generation, how difficult it is to purchase a house. It's just, that people in Hawaii have a difficult time making it. So you're very, very mindful with how much you raise your price, if you are going to raise your price to cover these types of costs.
I think last year we raised taxes, or took away tax credits, to the point where we realized $400 million more in revenue. And fortunately this year we raised some fees, but no taxes. And the economy seems to be performing a little better. So hopefully it won't get worse, because it was very difficult. But I was going kicking and screaming with losing the tax credits, and I hate to vote for taxes. So it was a difficult time for me anyway. So unemployment has gone up to $15,000 a year for you. Workers' comp is a cost too, and that is insurance that you buy, the employers buy.
Correct.
And that guards against injuries
Correct.
on the part of your employees.
Correct. So for a food establishment, the top 3 types of injuries that occur: burns, cuts from knives, slips and falls. And so it's really important for businesses to pay attention to the safety of their employees, because you can literally get to a point where, and also if the market, is naturally going this way where rates are naturally already high. But right now, from my understanding, we're in a soft market, so rates are right now reasonable for workers' comp. But it does play. Your rates really play into how much injuries you have. And if you have one big injury versus 5 little injuries, it's really not just the frequency, but it's also the cost of that particular injury. And insurance companies will not lose money. Whether it's HMSA or Kaiser or your workers' comp insurance company carrier or whatever, they're always going to increase their rates to cover their operational costs. And if what they're collecting from you is less than what they're paying out in workers' comp claims, well then you're going to find yourself paying a lot more money. So
you're required by law
Yes.
to cover each employee
Yes.
with workers' comp
Yes.
insurance and with unemployment compensation
Right,
insurance.
right, and that doesn't include all the other tax or general excise tax. We pay about $8,000. That doesn't include payroll tax. You pay federal and state taxes on top of what you pay your. It's not just employee looking at their check and looking, oh my God, I had this much taxes out of my check, but it's also the employer paying state and federal taxes on behalf of the money that they paid out to the employees. So, as a business, again, it's as a small business, it's very difficult when you're wanting to do well and all this, instead of maybe paying your employees better pay, of course you're paying taxes, and we understand why we have taxes, and there's a good reason. We have to fund our schools, we have to fund our roads, we have to fund different types of infrastructure, public safety. We get that, but I guess it's always that fine balance between preserving a vital economy and the small businesses that make up the backbone of our state's economy, along with collecting the funds to pay for services.
Well, taxes in Hawaii have always been very, very high.
My dad has complained about that since I was a child.
Oh.
Yes. I've heard complaints from him, and the difference between my father and I was I decided to get a little bit more involved as a business owner.
Yes, I've seen you down here at the legislature, and you have testified.
I have. I think for small business people, it's really hard to get away from your operations. I mean, we're really crunched on time, and we're trying to do everything. We're CFO, we're the marketing person, we're the HR department, we're the tax department. And then you're dealing with employee issues, and if, something is not right with your product, or, it's just everything. So it's really hard to get away and do get involved with the legislature, as much as I know everyone wants us to get involved, but it is a time constraint on our part. And I belong to the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, you do?
And I participate also as a board member, and that has and I sit in different committees, and that has allowed me to keep on top of what has been going on in the legislature.
Well, that's terrific. I'm like you said, very few small businesses can get away from their jobs, but you make the effort. So we're really very lucky to have you. I think you make a good face for the small business community, and we also always have big businesses here. They could hire lobbyists,
right?
And so
but not a small business. Yes, so.
So you've got to join an organization, and you would encourage other small owners to band together?
Definitely. I think the way to get your voice heard is really to join an organization, whether it's your local chamber or it's the main Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, to really and to be informed. Every legislative session, there's a bill passed of some sort that will affect your business, and if you're not aware, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And if you're so focused in producing your product or service and you're not aware of these things and how it affects, and even better yet, be on the front end and provide testimony or write to your representative or senator, about how this bill affects you. But takes a lot of time.
You know, I would like to see more young people get into, starting their own business. But it is quite a challenge here in Hawaii. And I was hoping that, I'm wondering whether you work with any organizations or young people and bring them into your restaurant to watch how, how you deal with your business daily basis.
We don't have something like that, but definitely I try to mentor the young ones that have no job experience when they come in, and try to say, now that you're starting your job as an employee, I do take a look at how long you've been at a particular place, if you've done a good job. For me, from an employer standpoint, I belong to an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization, which helps you get peer support for your business.
Oh, you do?
But definitely, I think I do believe in small business, and it's nice. It would be nice to see more people create their own businesses and be successful at it.
Oh, Monica, you're terrific. We're so glad today to be able to meet with Monica Toguchi of Highway Inn, and we've learned that this business is 60 years old and growing and prospering, and although it's always a struggle, we're very happy to see a successful business. We hope other companies will emulate it, and I am going to take a ride out there
Waipahu.
to Waipahu, which I don't go to too often, but I will certainly make the effort, and I would like to order a lau lau, so have it ready.
I will, definitely.
So to see a successful business then, and a successful businesswoman, meet Monica Toguchi at the Highway Inn. This is Representative Barbara Marumoto, and I'm wishing you aloha.